Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be going over the renovations that we've done on our foreclosure house for the last couple weeks. We're starting off with my son's room. We are going to be tearing up all the flooring. There's at least 2 layers of flooring in every room in the house except for the dining room and the kitchen, which we haven't got to yet. I don't know what they did. They did some sort of weird design. So we think that the people who were renting it did the very bottom layer, that light wood kind of look and the tile thing. We think that they did that as renters, and then that the homeowner came in and put this fake wood or like this really thin laminate on top just because it is a slightly better quality. Unfortunately, though, when the renters or whoever it was that put the very first layer down, they didn't put anything between that sticky fake floor and the concrete or the cement below, whatever you want to call it. So, unfortunately, after we get all the flooring up, I have to go through with adhesive remover and scrape it all up. So now that all the fake floor laminate is up, you can go through with a metal scraper and you scrape up as much glue as you can. I've already done that, so now I'm just going through with the adhesive remover down on the ground. I'm wearing a mask just because it really stinks, and I'm wearing gloves because you're not supposed to be touching the adhesive remover. At least that's what I was told. So now I'm just going through and scraping up as much of the loose adhesive as I possibly could. Personally, to me, removing adhesive from floors is right up there with dealing with insulation in the attic. It just sucks. Originally, I was like, it's not a big deal. It's okay. It's fine. But this room, because we actually removed the floor in our son's room second and my daughter's room first. In my daughter's room, it was so much easier getting the adhesive up compared to his for some reason. So after I was done removing all the adhesive from his room, I was just like, I hate it. Like, I'm completely done with adhesive. I don't want to do this no more. Now on to something that I think is at least more enjoyable than removing adhesive, is removing the popcorn from the ceiling. Although this is, I don't know, tedious and takes some time, it's also relaxing in a way and just kind of, I don't know, soothing. You have to spray the ceiling, you spray the popcorn with some warm water, you let it sit for a little bit, and then you scrape it off. It's really nice. To me, this was much better than being on my hands and knees and trying to deal with like the adhesive and whatnot. So we removed the popcorn ceiling from my son's room. It was a big mess. It took all day, but I think it's well worth it. Popcorn is pretty outdated, and a lot of people or a lot of buyers who see popcorn ceilings are really turned off by it. I personally love painting. I know there are a lot of people who hate painting, but I personally enjoy it a lot. Now, I wasn't concerned at all if I got any paint on the trim. So you can see that I go through and I paint the trim. We are replacing every single piece of trim in this house because the previous owners or renters, whoever, they went through and they put like this really weird gloss on it, like a really high glossy look to it, or the trim is just really damaged. So I went through and I painted at least this strip of trim just to kind of like make it look nicer. But then my husband was like, no, don't even bother. It's just going to waste paint because we're replacing all the trim anyway. So I was like, okay, like cool. So that's why I ended up painting like that one strip of trim and no more trim. So yeah, I mean, it happens, but we painted all of his room except for where this window is because this window has to be replaced. It was not installed properly, and we're going to do a wood trim or wood frame around the window, which will make it look nice. I hope anyway. There's my cat. she liked to come into the room and look out the window.
I just finished doing the ceiling. It's gonna need touch-ups though, for sure, but it's looking good. We do have this spot back here, but it needs to be like fixed because whoever did this beforehand did not do it right.
While I was working on the kids' bedroom with the floors and the painting and the popcorn, my husband was working on our bathroom.
They saw a nail gun and thought it was a closing roll.
But they didn't actually attach it to the header of the wall.
Which means they're not helping.
Which means it's letting it fucking sag that.
Ooh, that's a spider. Is that a dead spider?
Probably there's a lot of dead ones in there.
There's a lot of dead spiders here. That killed a wasp.
But it's just from the shower, right? Because these over here, this is fine.
We ripped up the sheetrock. They have no insulation behind where the shower was. And we needed to replace the spigot for the hose outlet back there. I don't remember what it's called. That's the back of the fireplace. So we're going to remove the fireplace and probably be able to bring the tub in straight through there. And then back here, the water or the pipe back there leaks a little. So we actually needed to remove the sheetrock to cut into here to get to that pipe. Now we are working on removing the floor in my daughter's room. It was a lot easier in comparison to my son's. We were able to take the flooring off within a day, and we stayed up until about 10 removing the adhesive, but I had to go back through again the following day and still scrape the floor a little bit more, just do a little extra cleanup to make sure all the adhesive was up and that there was no more adhesive remover on the ground, because it's my kid's room, so I don't want any chemicals left on the ground that she might step in. Yes, we did have our kids help with removing the flooring, and they didn't enjoy getting the sticky stuff on their feet. We have had to tell them several times to go put their shoes on because it's a work zone. So they might not have shoes on now, but they do put their shoes on later on so the glue doesn't stick to their feet. I'm sure a lot of people probably wouldn't necessarily have their kids helping them with household projects, but we want them to be a part of fixing up the house. It is probably not a common life skill, but it is something that they can learn and be more hands-on doing, which is what we want them to do. We don't want them just to sit around and watch mommy and daddy do everything. So I think it was a fun family experience. There are some things that we did this last month that they did not enjoy, but I mean, really, we didn't enjoy doing it either. It's just something that needs to be done. Yes, removing more popcorn ceiling. Now, I will say they at least don't have any popcorn ceiling in the living room, dining room, and kitchen, but unfortunately they have popcorn ceiling everywhere else in the house. So this is just one of those things where I had to go through with a water bottle, scrape it off. You do need to scrape gently. You don't want to accidentally make gouges into the sheetrock and the ceiling, so you do have to be kind of careful as you go through. It's not like you need to like bum rush through it because you might accidentally cause more damage. I did leave somewhat of a texture on. I didn't scrape it where it was completely clean. That way when I painted it, there would be at least a gentle kind of looking texture. And right now we're not sure if we want to do any kind of texture on the ceiling or if we want to leave them the way that they ended up after removing the popcorn and painting it. That's something that we're going to have to decide later on. Unfortunately, in our daughter's room, there was an insane amount of places that I had to mud and take care of. There was screws and nails and staples. That's my mud job, and that's someone else's mud job before. So it's someone else's mud job, my mud job. I like needed to make sure that my husband knew the difference from what was mine and what wasn't. And for some reason, like the paint on one wall, like the blue wall in my daughter's room, was it just wasn't sticking to the wall properly. Maybe they used bad paint, but at the very top of her room is like a strip of wallpaper. So I needed to remove the wallpaper at the very top, or we needed to remove the wallpaper at the very top before painting over that one wall. And there's another that's a staple that apparently I wasn't doing a good job getting the camera to look at that as I worked on it. So, but there's the staple that was in there for some reason. Removing the wallpaper like this was tedious work, but I think by the end of the project and with the new coat of paint over it, it was better that we removed the one strip of wallpaper than just leaving it be. Back to painting. Always make sure you shake your paint before you use it. Otherwise, it's like gross and liquidy and not right. So my husband went and bought like this extension stick thing, which honestly, it really helped to get higher up places. I feel like it handles weird to a certain degree. So it's not necessarily my favorite tool to use, but it is a good tool to have if you're painting like really high places, because I'm short and I can't reach up very high. So it only took me not very long to paint my daughter's room or my son's room. I did have my son come in and help paint through part of his sister's room because, I don't know, his sister was working on something else, so he had time to come in and help me. Again, I'm not overly concerned about the trim. I'm more worried about like if there's any drips or anything like that, because you don't want any drips on your wall. So while I finished painting up the ceiling in our daughter's room, my husband got started removing the brick from the fireplace. Believe it or not, we actually removed all the brick from the fireplace the first day. Like within one day, we were able to remove everything. So once we removed all the bricks, we had to break them up into tinier, smaller pieces. Like I've said before in a previous video, we're not keeping our pool. So with all the old brick, we just needed to spread it out. So what I'm doing right now is I'm literally just shoveling broken brick pieces to the deep end. So there's a huge pile in the shallow end because that was the closest to the back door area. So it was my job to just move it to the deep end. This took all day, unfortunately, but it needed to be done. And right now, at least during this video, it's probably about 8:30 in the morning. Most of our days we got up around, let's say 6 or 7, and we just started working immediately. Like you have your cup of coffee, but then you get to work, whether it be breaking bricks into smaller pieces, removing popcorn ceiling, my husband working on the framework, or, building a new wall for the bathroom, whatever it is. It's just as soon as you get up, you basically work sun up to sundown. So they were very long, very tiresome days, but we got a lot done. So once the sheetrock was removed where the plumbing is, my husband discovered that the pipe wasn't installed properly. So that at least was a fairly easy fix. Thank goodness. I did remove the popcorn ceiling from our bathroom, and they did have wallpaper up in there that was just buried under the paint. So I did start to remove the wallpaper, but they ended up doing some sort of weird mudding texture thing on top of it. So it's just going to be easier for us to remove the sheetrock and just start over again. This is the new tile that we picked out. We also picked out the sink and the faucet that we will install once we get our cabinet and our countertop in. So I don't know how to finish out this video aside from saying thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed. Here's a picture of my cat, and we will be posting again next month once we have done more renovations on the